Information is power.
All right, everybody, let's talk about this. This is crazy. Donald Trump has done it again. He's nominated a racist individual. This individual right here, Jeremy Carl. He is a white nationalist. He believes that white people are being replaced. He believes that he cannot coexist with these other ethnic groups, particularly black people in particular, that white people are now the new victim in society, that they are the underbelly in this society, that they're not in control. He's concerned. I mean, he went on about talking about Bad Bunny playing at the Super Bowl, what have you. These are white people who are concerned about this planet becoming more blacker and more brown, right? Remember, Public Enemy had a song called The Fear of a Black Planet. Well, white people like this guy right here are concerned that they are going to be replaced. He says that white culture is totally being eroded, whatever white culture is, whether it be white culture and food, talks about how white people worship God different. Really, what he's really talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is that he's concerned and that he feels that white culture is being eroded in America because white culture is better than any other culture, when we know that black culture is what moves and shakes in this country. But this is the type of racist individual that someone like Donald Trump has nominated to be sort of a vice secretary of state in the state house. It's really a damn shame. Let me go into more details about what I'm talking about here. Let's look at this right here. Okay, check this out. Jeremy Carl, President Trump's nominee to lead the State Department outreach to international organization, had a rough confirmation hearing, but he stood by his views on white supremacy, on white people being the victim now. Even though we know that black people have been incarcerated, white people are in control of the military, the government, they're in control of finances in this country. They're in control of the educational system of this country, the military. Most of the presidents in this country have been white, with one exception being Obama. All vice presidents have been white, for the exception of Kamala Harris. White people still dominate the Senate, still dominate the Congress, and dominate all forms of activity and industry in this country, as Neely Fuller Jr. told us. And this is just the damn truth. Now, the way I want to approach this situation is remind you of a beautiful sister by the name of Dr. Frances Welsing. Give her a clap. And remember, everybody, that this is a sister who came out with a theory called the ISIS Papers. The ISIS Papers is the keys to the colors. Dr. Frances Crescent Welsing breaks down how white people, for the most part, have felt inferior because they genetically are not able to reproduce themselves. What does that mean? Well, if you take a black person, a black man, a black woman, you put them with any race of person, that child is going to come out looking black. That child's going to have some black features, even if they're biracial. Right? You put a black person with a white person, the black blood is going to be pronounced, right? Recessive genes in the whole 9 yards. White people have been concerned because their birth rates are going down and what have you. This guy, Jeremy, he's concerned about that. But he's taken it a step further by saying that white men, particularly white people, are victims, that the white culture is becoming non-existent because other groups are coming over here. Right? And this is nothing but white supremacy. This is nothing but Donald Trump nominating a guy who has the same philosophy and probably beliefs as Donald Trump. Why would Donald Trump pick a guy who has this type of white supremacy ideology? And remember, in 2006, the FBI came out with files saying that white supremacist groups are infiltrating all forms of law enforcement, the police department, the sheriff's departments across this country, as well as your ICE agents. Let's keep it real. And so Dr. Frances Welsing, she breaks it down. I'm going to go into this guy, Jeremy, and the things that he had to say. He's in a position where he has to deal with people internationally, which means he'll deal with different race of people. But he harbors these white supremacist views, the same type of white nationalist views that you would get from, for example, the Oaths Keepers, the Boogaloo Boys, the Proud Boys, all these groups that support, your man, if you believe in Trump, they support Trump, okay? And Trump has no problem with it. He's never really denounced these groups. He told them to stand down and stand back and to further notice. So the racism is in this White House 100%. And I'm going to say again, get this book, The ISIS Papers, because it really breaks it down 100%. Now, this guy, Jeremy, to go a little bit further with it, this was a CNN article where this guy was basically trying to get rid of all of his tweets. We either win or die. Trump State Department nominee tried to erase thousands of tweets, many inflammatory statements that he's made. Let me put this up here again, put this one up here. So Donald Trump addressed a political rally, said, I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol. That's on January 6th. This guy was involved in this. This guy was praising it. Here, now, here's another one that I want to put up right here, where he's actually talking about a black person saying, there is no peaceful coexistence. We are going to have to when our opposition is led by people like this. We either win or die. He was talking about a Congress member, because this guy is a racist, a hate monger, the whole 9 yards. Okay. Now, before I get into the videos that you probably have heard about, where this man was speaking at the confirmation hearing and they were jamming him up pretty heavily, and he couldn't even define what white culture is, even though he claimed white culture is being eroded in American society. Okay. Because this is the fear that white people have. They are a minority in the world. They are a minority, becoming a minority in America based on concern for their birth rates. And where does this come from? Frances Welsing, she talked about this. Dr. Welsing talked about this stuff. White people are concerned, very concerned, ladies and gentlemen, about how they will exist. Where do they fit in? Because the world is becoming more brown and black. And that is the great replacement theory, which this guy, Jeremy, promotes. And that replacement theory is that it's a far-right conspiracy theory asserting that white European populations are being deliberately replaced by non-white people. And this is based on their concerns about the migration of people coming to this country that look a little bit more browner, not white, and how they are concerned about their low birth rates. Well, let's go into this area right here that Dr. Frances Welsing talks about so graciously. She breaks it down. I'm going to play this for you, and then you'll understand why Donald Trump is concerned. Remember, Donald Trump brought Africans over here. Donald Trump said out of his own mouth, why can't we get more immigrants from European countries, not these shithole countries like the Somalis? I'm going to play that video for you if you think I'm lying to you. But let's go to Dr. Frances Welsing now. Check this out.
Look like the mothers. And so they realized, wait a minute, we are a tiny minority in Europe and no other place where there are white people.
Facts.
So
Tell
they
the truth.
said, wait a minute, what if these men got in votes?
Uh-oh.
And started going from south to north?
Mm-hmm.
We could genetically disappear. Now, this may not make sense.
Now, Dr. Frances Welsing is saying that if other groups of people that have melanin in their bodies begin to get on ships, get on boats, and travel around the world, that they can mate with the women of those cultures, and white Anglo-Saxon white people who come from those Caucasus Mountains would lose their racial identity because these men of ethnic melanin background could annihilate them through the power of their reproductive organs. That's why when black men were deleted in the South, taken out of their homes by the Ku Klux Klan and many of these white nationalist groups, one of the things that they would do is take the private areas off of black men when they would take their lives. Another thing, if you remember the Georgia child when black kids were going missing in Atlanta, Georgia, and everybody was wondering why is it young black males being taken? Well, a lot of those young black males had their private areas no longer there because that's been the fear, as Public Enemy said, a fear of a black planet. Let's continue.
To black people, because under white supremacy, black people try to get rid of their color, don't we?
Listen.
White people don't want to disappear. And I have asked audiences of white people, do you want your children to be colored? Do you want your grandchildren to be colored? Do you want your great-grandchildren to be colored? Do you want your great-great-great-great-great-grandchildren to be colored? I'm polite and they're polite. What do they say? No. No.
No, 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 no. They don't want it. Because they know if their grandchildren and their children have sex with people who look like me, the children will not come out looking like them. That's a genetic concern that they have always had. And this is why you're going to hear this guy espouse certain thoughts of that fear, talking about culture and where white people stand in the world and how America is changing. This is why Donald Trump was elected as president, because white people have that fear that the world is changing around them. That's why Donald Trump wanted to bring those racist Afrikaners around here. Okay? That's why Donald Trump said this.
Totally off the record. Nothing mentioned here. We want to be honest because our country was going to hell. And we had a meeting. And I said, why is it we only take people from shithole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let's have a few.
See?
From Denmark. Do you mind sending us a few people? Send us some nice people. Do you mind? But we always take people from Somalia, places that are a disaster, right? Filthy, dirty, disgusting, ridden with crime. The only thing they're good at is going after ships.
Now, say what you will about the Somalis. I mean, the ones that were committing the crimes in Minnesota, they've been arrested. But this is what you need to really understand. They're more concerned about the color, that they have black skin, that they don't look white, that they're not European. You clearly heard the racist Sith Lord President Donald Trump say out of his own mouth, why can't we have more Europeans here? That's why he brought the Afrikaners over here who are racist themselves from South Africa. Lied and said that they were persecuted by black South Africans when that was not true. That fear comes out of everything that Dr. Frances Welsing has been talking about all these years in her ISIS papers that you see right here. We must keep it real. Let's hear some more.
Meaning they don't want to disappear. So I said, if you mean this, then you have to do certain specific things in all of these areas of activity.
Right.
So that white does not disappear on planet Earth.
Earth.
Now, unbeknownst to us, this is the critical underlying motivation for all of the behavior of people who classify themselves as white.
As white.
On this planet. I don't know how many of you are familiar with the name Tom Metzger. He is one of the arch white supremacists or white separatists.
Now I want you to hear what she says right here when she talks about white separatists and what he really said. This guy was a top of the line of white nationalists, okay, espousing the same stuff at that time that this guy that you're going to hear espousing when he's in his confirmation hearing and he's being jammed up, that I'm going to play in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. This is the content that we really need to analyze and assess. Let's go.
Some years ago, I was on a television program in Los Angeles when President Reagan's son had a television talk show. And so this particular show was a panel of people, might have been 10 people, talking about race and racism. I just happened to be sitting next to Mr. Metzger. And so during a commercial break,
listen now,
I kind of touched him on his arm. I'm sitting right next to him. And he didn't say, "Don't touch me, nigger."
Ooh.
I said,
Did you hear what she just said?
Mr. Metzger, tell me something. What percentage of people who classify themselves as
White, listen.
are fearful of white genetic annihilation? And he answered very politely. He said, Dr. Welsing, nearly all of them.
Woo!
But they are ashamed or afraid to admit it.
Guess what? Donald Trump's not ashamed to admit it. That's why Donald Trump could sit up here and say the things that he said again right here.
So they came in and they said, this is totally off the record. Nothing mentioned here. We want to be honest because our country was going to hell. And they say, why is it we only take people from shithole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let us have a few. From Denmark, do you mind sending us a few people?
I just wanted to play that again to emphasize this point here. Donald Trump is popular amongst white people who voted for him, white men at 59%, white women around 53%, Latino men in particular were in the up very high. They voted for him, particularly white people, because of the fact that he speaks in a way that he's saying the things that they really can't say themselves at their jobs and situations unless they're private somewhere. So Donald Trump says the things that they really feel and believe, and that is a concern about their genetic survival, just as was put out in the ISIS papers those many years ago. Now I want to let you hear what this fool right here had to say. Jeremy Carr, who Trump nominated to be part of the State Department dealing with international affairs as a vice. This is sick stuff right here. This is why nobody can tell me that Trump is not a demon individual. Let me let you hear me. Here I go with the first video, should I say. Check this out.
So you have a problem if America grew to be more Latinos than white people?
Senator, the individual group is not important. This is a cross-societal.
What do you mean when you say that you believe in the Great Replacement theory?
Senator, thank you for that question.
And remember, the Great Replacement theory is white people concerned that non-white people are purposely replacing them, that there's a conspiracy to get rid of white people. Like when you have migrations of people who are non-white coming to the country, they already don't like the fact that black people, despite all the things that they've done to us through history, that we still continue to populate as well, globally and in America. Let's get back to it.
This refers to the intentional demographic replacement of Europeans in Europe. It was invented by Renaud Camus, who was a French scholar.
You think there's an active effort to, quote unquote, replace Americans right now?
Senator, I think the Democratic Party, through its immigration policies, has certainly shown signs of that.
So you are saying that if more Americans are black or Latino Americans, that somehow weakens America because it puts whites in a minority?
Senator, I never said anything like that, nor do I actually believe that. I want to be very clear that regardless of country, if people generally share more in
I'm sorry,
common,
can I
that's
read you what you've said? Because it sounds like this. You said the great replacement is real, and they are going to try to make you pay for it. Who is they?
Senator, thank you for that question. I simply don't know from you reading that one isolated comment.
You say in your writings that it is a threat to the United States of America and create an us versus them. And the only interpretation I can have of us versus them is it's white people against others, which sounds deeply racist.
Because it is deeply racist, Cory Booker. It is very deeply racist, but this is the theory, the going theory of these white nationalist groups. And they're all over this country. The militias, the Boogaloo Boys, the Proud Boys. These are groups that support Trump wholeheartedly. These are the type, let me say this very carefully to everyone. These Jeremy Carl, who Donald Trump has nominated to be in the State Department, these are examples of people that are already in his administration currently right now, like Mike Miller. That dude is a racist. He's got these kind of people laid all over his administration. Let's continue.
To me, that somehow you think our country's greatness depends upon its ethnic diversity as long as white people have more numbers than others.
Right.
That does not sound like a nation that was founded with the belief that all people are created equal and equal before the eyes of God.
Let's stop right there, Cory Booker. It sounds good what you're saying, but that's not what this country was founded under. This country was founded under racism. You see, those wig-wearing racist founders never intended for people like you to be in government, to be in some sort of leadership position. They never intended for us to be free people. They intended for us to be slaves, to work this land for free, never to get reparations, which we still haven't gotten to this very day. They intended for us to be just property, as black people were treated. And that's what the white man, the fear that white people have in this country, that they're losing the grip and control that they have. This is why they would vote for someone like Trump. And this is why, just like you had Uncle Toms, you had sellout Sambos and Gumbos who supported the white slave master in his big house. Just like on Django Unchained, you had Stephen who cried when Candy died. You got the same type of black folks that would support a guy like Trump. It's the same thing. Cry for your white man, support your white slave owner. Only difference is we're not in shackle slavery today. We're more in mental slavery. And that's why we'll have some black people that will follow a Donald Trump, put him on a pedestal like he's something grand to worship. Let's continue. I might have hurt a few people's feelings with what I said, and I don't give a damn. Let's continue.
It sounds like you have a racial hierarchy. There's no way for me to read this in any other way.
Senator,
you have said our country based upon religious diversity, based upon ethnic diversity, based upon racial diversity. You have indicated that somehow those make America weaker or stronger, that God forbid our nation grows in population, that then you suddenly say, I'm aggrieved, and they are trying to replace us. You say holidays
Now, I want y'all to hear this part right here.
like Juneteenth are racial hustles. Don't come here and hustle me.
That's what this guy, Jeremy, said. He said that Juneteenth, which we never asked for it to be a holiday, but he says it's a racial hustle. This is the guy that Donald Trump picked. This is the racism that comes out of his White House. This is the grand wizard himself, Donald Trump. This is his pick. You can't get no way around it. You cannot get no way around it. And Donald Trump himself is also concerned about his generic survival. he has the same type of fear that I speak of. And it all goes back to Mrs. Dr. Welsing, God rest her soul in power. It all goes back to her Cressing theories right here. Get that book, read that book, understand the keys to the colors and how that whole thing works. Make sure you check out Neely Fuller Jr.'s writings, because he mentored Dr. Francis Welsing. So let me continue on, and let me just say this too, because Cory Booker, he wasn't on top of this here. This is not to say that people who come over here from other countries, it does not impact Black Americans, because you do have some of these people who come from other countries who come over here with their anti-Black sentiments. Let's keep that in mind. I'm not ignorant to that either, folks. Now, let's see the other video that shows this guy, Jeremy Carl, racism picked by Donald Trump. Here we go.
Tell me how you define white identity and what you think is being erased about white identity.
Certain types of Anglo-derived culture that comes from our history.
Like what?
Let me think about this.
You know why he has to think about it? Because there is no such thing as white culture. That's the funny thing about, I got to be honest about it. Let's go.
Senator, I would say if you were to look at the book by one of your former Senate colleagues, Born Fighting, about the sort of Scotch-Irish military culture and certain, pride that went with that, that would be.
Right, but that's Scottish culture. You have Scottish culture. You have Italian culture, right? You have people who are Irish who have their own culture, colors and flags. You have Germans in this country who have their own culture, Italians, Germans, Jewish people who have their own. There is no such thing as white culture, because remember, America was stolen from the native people who were here before Europeans brought their ass over here. And remember, Dr. King said that when Europeans came to this country, they got land grants, they got set-asides, they got treated different than us. Okay? Let's go back to it.
One example. Obviously, you could have sub-elements of that culture. You could have Italians, you could have Irish, and those are in many ways more.
Yeah, but you're worried about white culture. You're not worried about, you're now retreating to ethnic identity. You don't speak about ethnic identity. You speak about white identity. So tell me the values that stitch together white identity and that make it different than Black identity.
I would say that the white church is very different than the Black church in terms of its tone and style on average.
Listen.
Foodways could often be different.
And those are
music could be different.
And those are being erased.
Music could be different. Well, if you look at the Super Bowl halftime show, which was not in English this year.
So our ability to access white churches or white.
So what he's basically saying is that because you have other ethnic groups like Black people, that we have churches and we have a way that we worship, that somehow because we worship God in the way that we do, that it's something beneath white people, meaning that white culture is better, that white culture even worships God better. That's really what the guy is saying. But you notice he's struggling to give a clear definition because all of this shit is hogwash. But he's really saying that, white culture is really better than any culture, but he can't even really define it.
White food or white music is being erased?
I am concerned with the majority common American culture that we had for some time that through particularly mass immigration, I think has become much more balkanized.
Bullshit. First of all, music in this country was created from Black people. Gospel, blues, jazz, ragtime, all that stuff was created by us, and y'all stole our music and you called it jazz. Y'all stole a lot of the inventions that were created in this country were stolen from Black people who could not get, Black inventors who could not get patents. Because you guys didn't ever create a culture. You basically stole other people's culture, and you do it today.
And I think that weakens us. And again, I'm not running away from that comment. I'm not apologizing for
Well,
it.
I'm way over my time. I think you're struggling to answer this question, right? Because underlying your beliefs is a sentiment that white culture is just simply better.
Right. Exactly. He said it. Now, let me show you the last video on this joker when he is asked very honest questions from one of the congressmen that, hey, white people pretty much control this and control that. So what do you mean white people are losing their grip on society? Check this out. This is going to really, this one's going to be crazy. Check this out.
One of the things you said was American whites are victims of a cultural genocide. Where to start?
Uh-oh.
So you'd agree with me, wouldn't you, that whites are pretty well represented in the United States Senate?
They are well represented in this body, yes.
And how about in the House of Representatives?
Senator Kaine, I don't have those particular numbers.
But
However,
you would agree that they're pretty well represented in the House of Representatives.
Senator, I would, again, thank you for the question. I would point out that there were no white Protestants by birth in the 25 cabinet members under Joe Biden.
How about in the ranks of American presidents throughout history, including now pretty well represented whites?
Senator.
And how about in the ranks of vice presidents during American history now? Whites pretty well represented in that group, right?
Senator, thank you again for the question.
Yeah. I don't think it's hard.
Now,
How about on the United States?
This idiot keeps saying, thank you for the question. That's just a stall technique that he's using. But you see, white people pretty much control all, as Neely Fuller Jr. once said, all areas of activity. They dominate in all areas of government, all areas of the military, the government, all areas of control. What is he talking about? The fear is that we still are outnumbering them in the birth rates, the whole 9 yards. And that's the biggest concern, fear of a black planet. This is the fear that white people like this guy, Jeremy Carl, have. He's a white nationalist.
Supreme Court. Throughout our history and including now, whites are pretty well represented on the United States Supreme Court, correct?
I think obviously historically, I would of course agree with you. Of course, the vast majority of Americans were white at that time. It's now much
They
more
still
diverse
are.
society.
Let's focus on
They
right
still
now.
are,
How about
fool.
in the ranks of American governors? You think whites are pretty well represented?
I would just have to look at the numbers. I don't know.
Okay, how about this? In the ranks of CEOs of major corporations today, you think whites are pretty well represented?
Senator, thank you for the question. I suspect that they are probably pretty well represented in that, but there are other areas where they're not as well.
How about in the ranks of
What?
high-income people? And we can
Bullshit.
define it however you want. Let's just say like top 10% of wealthy Americans. You think whites are pretty well represented?
Senator, thank you for the question. They would certainly be underrepresented with respect to Asian Americans, but they would be overrepresented with respect to other groups.
Yeah. A cultural genocide, that's a stiff claim. And it's an interesting one because it's kind of a white victimhood argument. But if I remember my colleague, Senator Rosen, she was reading comments to you where.
Now, this is very interesting because you'll have Negroes on social media that when black people talk about the things that's happened to us through history, particularly your black conservatives, they'll say, oh, stop being a victim, your victimhood, right? Now, here you have a white guy and white men like him who cry baby like this, but they're in charge of everything. And you don't hear anybody saying that that's telling them to shut up and stop being a victim. You'll even have black people that will support the shit that this guy, Jeremy Carl, is talking about. Because they're sellouts. The same people that would support this weirdo, this PDF president right here. Okay? Now check this out. Let's hear some more.
You had been saying, man, Jews play the victim. Jews like to be the victim. And yet you're making a claim that whites are victimized by a cultural genocide when all the statistics would say, not just in history, but today, that whites are very well represented at every level of every institution. They're very well represented in the incomes of Americans. And that doesn't mean each person is high income or each person is a Supreme Court justice, but you could look institution after institution in this country and the facts completely rebut the notion that whites are victimized by a cultural genocide. One of
This
the
is
things you
correct.
said
This
was
is totally correct what he just said. Let me go right here and say that this is crazy, everybody. Let me know what you think about this video, the idea that white people now are the new victims, that they are being discriminated against, that they have no power, that their culture is being eroded by the fact that the country is becoming more browner and blacker. Let me know. Give me your honest opinions. But to top this all off, let's hear some more from Dr. Francis Welsing to end the program today. Check this out.
The people are called white or you're non-white. That's on the census. That's the classification. You see, that is the problem. The word white, when it refers to human beings, means genetic deficiency.
Listen.
Mutation, genetic deficiency, inability to produce melanin pigment. It means tiny minority on the planet.
Boom. Tiny minority on the planet. Let me know what your thoughts are about this video. The whole thing is crazy, is all get out. Thank you, everybody. Make sure you like and share this video. Share it in all your social media. Like the video. Leave me a comment. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Appreciate your support. We'll see what we can do. Until next time, I will see you. This is the Information Man Show. Thank you for supporting me. All of you that are watching this pre-produced video. Y'all take care, and we'll be back with more. Peace.
I fear the day you gone, the most beautiful girl I've ever known. I'll find a way to treat you better. I swear there's no
You are listening to Information Man. Please make sure to subscribe to his channel.
My talk is cheap, keep asking what I do. I'll fly you to the moon and hope I'll see you soon. I'll find
BS3 Network, changing the way you listen to podcasts.
I'll do whatever.
BS3 Network, changing the way you watch TV. You are now tuned to BS3 Network.
Take care of me, give my baby problems, you gon' regret everything. So I let her know, gotta let her know. Came through the front door, I'll be ready for. And if it's what you want,